Hey, it's Aaron, and today I want to talk about kind of just the sales roundup for vehicles for 2024. It was a pretty good year, slightly up from the year before, and a continued growth trend from 2019, so pre when the pandemic kind of hit and numbers started to drop. It was right after that point. So pretty much caught up. We're back to close to 2019 numbers as of 2024, at about 16 million units sold total in the US. And we're probably going to level out there. It doesn't look like 2025 is going to be a big growth year. It may be a slight loss year. We're going to stay around that 16 million vehicles. For perspective, we were at about 17 million in 2018-ish. So in the years before the pandemic, we were somewhere between 16 and 17 million as an average in new vehicle sales. So we're probably going to stay at about where we are now for this year. May go slightly down, may go slightly up, but it's going to be about the same. So what we're looking at is I want to talk about the top sellers. So the top sell list that is usually touted will lump a lot of vehicles together, and then it's the usual list. So we expect a lot of pickup trucks in that list. But when you break down just by model, then there's a huge difference, and that list gets really shook up. So let's talk about both of these lists. We'll start with the standard list, the one we always hear. So the Ford F-Series, always the number one, has been for decades, still is for 2024 at 765,600-ish units, somewhere in there. Then the Chevy Silverado, which is at 542,500 units, and then the Toyota RAV4, which is at 475,000 units or so. It's a little above that. The Honda CRV at 403,000 units, or really close to that. And then the Ram truck at 373,000 or so. So slightly above that, I believe. So the actual numbers will be on the screen on one of these sides, probably over here. And then on this side, let's run down the list when we take that and change it and just go by model. So these are just vehicle models, no lumping, which means the Ford F-150 has to stand on its own, the Chevy, etc. They all have to stand on their own. It's not a group of trucks. So on that list, the trucks become the minority. The Toyota RAV4 outdoes the Ford F-150 at 475,000, I think it was 100 or 200 units. That is a big upset because the Ford F-150, which now comes in second, has usually been first. Ford F-150 at 461,000 units, give or take. Then the Honda CRV is next at 402,700 units, I think it is. And then, interestingly, the Tesla Model Y at 372,000 and some. I think it was 600. So 372,600 units. That one is a really interesting one because Tesla has been losing sales, but last year they didn't lose sales until the last quarter. They were doing pretty okay up to that point, so that's why. And then last on our list of five is the Silverado 1500, the Chevrolet Silverado 1500 at 344,000 units. So that's the top five in consumer purchases in sales. Well, there are some fleet sales in there, but it's the top five by model versus the top five that we usually end up seeing on places like, Car and Driver and websites like that. So that's kind of where we're at this year for 2024. I predict that Tesla's going to fall off the list for 2025 simply because their sales are going down and continuing to go down, and I don't think that's going to change. The Model Y saw like a 3 or 4% drop last year in sales numbers, and I don't see that changing. I think it's going to keep dropping. But total vehicle sales is another really interesting place to look by brand. So rather than looking by just model or series, let's look at the brands themselves. Top five brands for 2024 were Ford at about 2.1 million, Toyota at about 2 million, Chevrolet at about 1.7 million, Honda at about 1.3 million, and Nissan at 860,000, and then Hyundai at 823 and a half. So looking at those, that's an interesting list. I expect this list to change next year. Ford will stay on top. Toyota might get pretty close. Toyota and Ford are kind of right there, so we'll see if that changes. Chevy is probably going to stay in third. I don't see Honda catching up, but I do see Nissan dropping. Nissan has been struggling for a couple of years. Their market share continues to dwindle. So I expect to see Nissan actually fall off this top 5 list next year, because I really think that Hyundai can easily beat them, and I think Kia is on track. If Nissan comes down, Kia could go above them. Kia is in at number 6 at 793,500-ish units last year. Other ones to watch that may not make the top 5 but are going to stay in and move probably up the chart in the top 10. Subaru for sure. Subaru's been just selling the heck out of it. They did really well, and they're going to continue to grow. I think they'll at least jump over the 700,000 unit numbers. Next up would be probably Mazda. I think Jeep is going further down the list as it goes, and it would not surprise me to see Jeep and Mazda neck and neck for a higher position in that top 10 chart. Ram Truck is also dropping. I expect Mazda will easily pass them at this point because they're within 10,000 units of each other. And I expect Tesla to keep dropping down the list. Tesla's politically just not popular, and I don't see that changing at all. So I really think that their sales in this country are going to keep dropping. So expect lots of shakeup for the top 10 list of brands in 2025 when we come up to the end of this year. But interesting look at the market this year. It's a pretty cool, pretty good spot to be in. Everybody wants growth, but I don't think we could sustain that, not in our current economic climate. But I think that we can hold it level, and we're at a pretty good level as far as automakers and profitability go. So there you go. That's the 2024 roundup of stuff and kind of my predictions for 2025. This has been Aaron. Talk to you again soon.